Hello everyone, I'm Tara from SmileHome, and today we are interviewing the lovely Allyson Sigman. Hi Allyson, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so ready for this.
Awesome.
Okay. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more?
Sure. My name is Allyson. I'm a Japanese interpreter by trade, and I was before I moved to Japan. However, my husband's company actually brought him over to start up an office in Tokyo, and so we ended up living in Japan for about 3 years, and now we're back in the US again.
So starting fresh in a new environment as a young family must have been a really exciting new chapter for you guys.
It was, actually. So we had a 4-year-old son at the time who was just getting started figuring out Japan, but my husband and I had met in Nagoya when we were on study abroad. So we both knew Nagoya very well. We didn't know Tokyo hardly at all.
When you first arrived in Japan, did you have a place to stay? What was it like trying to find housing here?
We did. Because we were coming through my husband's company, they had set us up with a monthly rental until we could find our own place. Okay. And so we were in Roppongi, a monthly serviced apartment that was extremely expensive but very nice. But we wanted to get out of there and have a place of our own.
Yeah. As a family, it's really important to have a big enough house and a place where your children will be comfortable growing up in. Yeah, being a family of 4 living abroad, did that make it harder for the house hunt?
Yes. So we were initially a family of 3. I had our 4th one 2 years into our stay here, and then COVID hit.
Oh, COVID.
So yeah, initially we were looking for a big place. Coming from America, we were thinking maybe a lawn or something our dog could run around, but that was not possible. And we wanted something that would be good schools. Obviously, Tokyo is pretty much all good schools, but we wanted something where we were comfortable and where our son and eventually our daughter would have lots of Japanese immersion. Because, like I said, I'm an interpreter. My husband is good conversational Japanese level. And so we wanted our kids to just go full immersion. We weren't going to send them to international school.
Talking about schooling, how was the process of finding a school for your kids here? Did you have trouble finding places that accepted students, or was it pretty much smooth sailing?
No, it was pretty easy. Once we settled on an apartment, we moved in, we did our registration. My son went into the local preschool. Because I had some flexibility in my work, I didn't have to do daycare. I could choose a preschool that had kind of limited hours, but they were really nice. When my son started having trouble adapting to speaking Japanese every day, they brought in an extra teacher to kind of sit with him and explain things slowly. They bought a pocket talk translator, I think, for when they couldn't understand him. So I felt like it was really good.
Japan's always been really good in the education system. I know a lot of people living in America and abroad are always interested in the education life in Japan, thinking about doing exchange programs and stuff. So would you recommend that? Would be a good experience for them?
So we were in a very low foreign population area. We were specifically in Ariake. There were a couple other blended families, but no one else who looked like my son. He was the only white kid in his school. I'd worried about bullying, but he made friends and it went fine, honestly. I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, Japanese people are usually very friendly with others. They always want to learn more about the world, and that interaction must have been nice. So what led you to choose SmileHome in the end?
So actually, I didn't choose SmileHome. SmileHome chose me. I had started looking on sites like Sumo and other places, and I put in a couple, I'd like to see this place. But when you do that, you get hooked up with an agent. And so we had gone around to look at 3 different apartments. We met 3 different agents. We were like, oh, SmileHome is amazing. We could tell that it was much more personal, much less like a business transaction. And Sadie just was extremely thorough in asking us what we were looking for. She seemed to really know what a foreigner coming to Japan might have trouble with. And I had read a lot online because before I was in study abroad, I didn't have to look for my own place. So this was my first experience. And in one of the biggest cities in the world, it was daunting. It was scary.
Yeah, Tokyo's huge.
Yeah. And so you're trying to figure out, like, where do I live? There's all these ku, and I want to be close to some, like, English-speaking doctors, but I also want to have a lot of Japanese input for my son so he gets the immersion experience. And we ended up, do you want me to go on to that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So we were prioritizing space over community, I guess.
Okay.
So we found this really nice house in Ebisu. And so it had a lot of restaurants. It was a really nice, fashionable area. And we were ready to sign the contract. And this is all through SmileHome. My husband and I, for some reason, went out towards Tokyo Bay. He's like, if we're going to live in Japan and we don't know how long it's going to be, I really want to be on the water. I was like, okay, but we have a contract right now that we're ready to sign. We called up Sadie and said, we want to start over. I felt so bad because we had already lost one place. You don't always get places even if you have a good income, good references, and everything seems like on paper it would check out. Yeah. Still, sometimes you get rejected for a house that you want.
Do you think that has something to do with being a foreigner? Do you think?
I mean, I was trying not to say that, but yeah.
Okay.
I never get mad about that. It's okay. If you are worried that I'm going to damage your floor because of some weird foreign practice that I have or whatever it is, it's your apartment and you have the right to lend it or not lend it to whoever you choose.
Do you think that Japanese landlords should become a little bit more open, or do you think it's pretty standard? I mean, it's fair, right? It's their country.
I feel like if you want to lose a business opportunity, that's up to you as a business owner. In my opinion, more foreign owners should be renting out properties, and individual owners should be more open to tailoring their rentals to make them more friendly to foreigners. But I don't think it needs to be a policy. I think that if people want to lose out on having great tenants like us, they can. So Sadie completely redid the search for us. We ended up in Ariake, in like a very high-rise apartment, which we hadn't even been looking for. We had kind of been looking more towards houses. Mm-hmm. We loved it. It was beautiful. You could see Tokyo Bay from our window. If you went down to the party room, you could see Tokyo Tower in the other direction, Skytree.
What a dream.
It was beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Get me there.
I know, right? Honestly, I would have bought it if the owner had been willing to sell it.
What was holding you back?
First of all, we loved the apartment and we thought, well, maybe we can own this and then rent it out. But the owner didn't want to sell it to us. Mm-hmm. So then we started looking around saying, okay, well, maybe we could have a rental kind of investment property. And we had work visas and not permanent residency. Well, let me explain. If you have a work visa, you can usually get financed about 80 or 90% of the loan amount, but not 100%. In our case, we were getting ready to eventually move back to the US, continue working there, and we knew that we were going to have to buy a house. So we needed at least 20% for a down payment. We didn't have both at the same time.
After moving back to America, how would you compare lifestyle in Japan versus in the United States?
That's a hard question. They're completely different, first of all. We walked everywhere and trained everywhere here versus having to have multiple cars there. There just isn't as much community. Like, we were a 5-minute walk from the elementary school, but my son gets into trouble. So he would have his little yellow hat and his backpack on, and he'd be walking to school, but then he'd stop in front of the grocery store. Someone noticed that he was doing that and called the school, and the school called me, and I went and got him. And then I ended up making friends because one of our neighbors, when she was taking her younger kid to preschool, she would see him and she would message me, hey, Allyson, he's out front again. Mm-hmm. That kind of community, I feel like, doesn't happen in the US. If someone sees a kid out on the street, they're either calling the police or they're leaving them alone.
So would you say that Japan has a relatively safer place for children, or just like in general versus the States?
That's the thing. I feel like in the States, everyone's afraid of each other. It may be safe in my neighborhood, but I don't know because everyone's too scared to let their kids go out alone.
Right.
In Tokyo, I felt like it was safe. My husband felt like that was the threat to my son's safety, but I felt like, well, he doesn't have to have active shooter drills. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is better in Japan.
Yeah.
I will say, going back to safety, one of the things that we had to be worried about, and his school helped us plan for, was disasters. So we had a family plan. If mom is at work and dad is at work, what is my son doing? Where is he going? Do we know where our closest evacuation spot is? Does my son know how to walk there from the places that he normally goes? And that really gave us peace of mind as people who are not used to dealing with disasters.
Mm-hmm. I would say Japan is relatively very thorough with that because they're used to natural disasters happening.
Yes.
Compared to like US, I feel like they have those school drills, but it's very common over there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, would you recommend SmileHome to other foreigners?
I recommend SmileHome to everybody. Like, I met 4 other people who were in real estate while I was here, and I'm like, no, you don't understand how good my agent is. Because her absolute willingness to go back to zero and start looking for a house for us. We had tried looking once before we got our visa, but we couldn't rent anything without a visa. Mm-hmm. Then we found a place in Ebisu, and we were ready to sign a contract. Then we went back to zero again and looked for a place on the water.
Above and beyond.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Above and beyond. And I'm so glad we were able to help you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Would you go to Japan in the future again?
Of course. I would come back in a heartbeat. My husband had a little bit more trouble acclimating here, and especially because his Japanese just isn't quite the level that he can like read a lease or talk to a doctor. That was a challenge for him. Mm-hmm. Not finding friends, but really just navigating your life.
Would you say that SmileHome helped during the process of finding that home with the leasing and the translation and all that?
They were amazing. We had done a little bit of research on blogs about, key money and all this random stuff that you need to get an apartment.
Research is so important.
Yeah, but I felt like there were all these things that we didn't know. We didn't know there was like an intermediary between you and the agency and the owner, and it's a lot to navigate on your own, even if you're the best internet researcher ever. And so I felt like at least the part of finding the home and getting set up, SmileHome helped so much.
So recently we added a new service, the Lifestyle AI. It's an AI chat where we help people looking through our website with any questions or concerns that they have, like just 24/7 support. Did you think that would have helped back then when you were looking for an apartment?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there were a lot of questions that I had about, especially when we were looking from the US and trying to like find places we wanted to visit while we were in Japan for a short time, trying to get things set up in advance. Having that chat service would have been great. Like, just being able to say, especially because of the time difference, you don't want to bother you guys when it's 3 a.m. Mm-hmm. So having a chatbot would have been great. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that my husband struggled with that I think he would have liked to have a resource like that.
Right. And you don't have to translate. It'll just translate in English.
Right. Mm-hmm. Pool of knowledge that you can tap into. That's great.
What advice would you give to someone just starting their search for a place in Japan?
Try and decide what is best for you and your family, and then get a great agent who will find that for you.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.